So,
We're thinking about these two.
we'll get started. Grant, good to see you, man.
Good to see you.
Crazy day, and thanks guys for talking on. We'll continue a bit. Taxpayers. Right on, right on. For those people who don't come from New Hampshire, if you're just visiting, we know some people are coming up from the lovely state of Connecticut, but they have such wonderful taxes.
Oh, we had a wonderful referendum last year in our town.
Oh man, we'll have to hear about that. When I do my show, there is pretty much one organization to which I can turn to give me the lowdown on taxes in New Hampshire. And not just the government, central government side of it, but Little Leviathan as well. Because the Coalition for New Hampshire Taxpayers has just done an amazing job in being able to provide not just information to people about what's happening on the state level, but and I don't even know how you guys really do it. I think it's almost an organic, spontaneous thing that comes from the bottom up. Once they offered services to people, which are pretty amazing, legal services to look into property tax evaluations, whether or not the companies that are doing it are doing good jobs, local tax referendums and things like that, referenda. The Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers, which is found at cnht.org, is the only place to really find this information. There have been other tax groups around in the past. Some of them have sort of gone by the wayside. They're trying to come back here occasionally. New Hampshire Taxpayers is one of them. But I want to welcome Tom Keene and Howard DILWORTH, and both of these gentlemen do amazing work with CNHT. Guys, get out here. So I wanted to offer you an opportunity. We'll start things off with what you can explain to people what the CNHT does and how you look at its role here in the state of New Hampshire, particularly for those people who might be coming up from the free state, what you can do if they get in touch with you and how effective you are, particularly on the local level in stopping things and so on. So, Howard or Tom, you first.
We started this organization in 1999 as an offshoot of the Granite State Taxpayers, which we had a falling out with their executive board. And from the beginning, we've pretty much focused on local issues. We try and stay out of the State House. As a matter of fact, I somewhat derisively refer to that as the Golden Dome Nursing Home. We are pretty much locally focused. We have approximately 255 independent kingdoms in the state called towns. And most of us started out in our own towns, got involved because we didn't like the way that things were. And over time we got networked. I ran into Ed and I were involved in setting up this group. Tom is with us now. All three of us have something in common, is that we've all been selectmen. Tom is currently, I'm a former selectman, Ed's a former selectman. Our treasurer is the chairman of the Board of Selectmen in Newbury, a small town with about 1,800 people. And we deal with issues on a local level that local municipalities see year in and year out. Assessments, because everything here is based on property tax. So you have to make sure that you're being assessed fairly. You have to make sure that the people who are doing the assessments are doing the job they're supposed to be. We deal with budgets. We look at town and school budgets. And we want to make sure you're getting the best bang for your buck, so that things that are proposed in school budgets, that they actually do what they say they're going to do, and that we get the information relative to classroom sizes, how many kids are in a classroom, what the per pupil teacher ratios really mean, what the per pupil expenditures really mean. For example, you would assume that you would take the number of kids and divide that into the school budget, and you would come up with dollars per student. Wrong. You have to eliminate transportation, because that's not included in the mix, and you have to eliminate long-term bonded debt, because that's not in the mix either. And the interesting thing with something like that is that they used to talk a lot in my school district about Rochester, and they said how little Rochester spent per pupil. Well, yes, because they had floated so many bonds, and they were making so many bond payments, they didn't have any money for anything else. So that's why they were not spending a lot of money per pupil. And when we pointed that out in public, they stopped using Rochester as an example. I guess the best thing is that over time, a lot of us have become networked. The best thing that ever happened to us is email and the internet. You can go and look up on anything on the internet, and with email, stuff is instantaneously goes from one place to another place. So that's kind of how we do it. The example I like to use is in every town, when they have town meeting, there's typically a microphone in the middle of the floor, surrounded by all the chairs, as opposed to the one up front. And there's one person in every town who stands at that microphone and questions things and asks those laser right-on questions that people might have thought might have been the right question, but this person asks the question. It's things like, well, your teacher's contract calls for step increases and cost of living. So my question is, do they get the COLA on top of the new step increase they just got because they take place on the same day? Questions like that. And usually you're not well liked. Selectman Keynes here is just, this is the Antichrist of the town of Ball. He is so bad that one of the local attorneys has talked about that they were making pudding in Bow. Well, I happen to know this attorney because he's my town's attorney, and I frankly haven't had a chance to ask him what kind of pudding they're making up there. But there's one person stands at the microphone, asks the questions, makes the motions, and they're all by themselves, or so they think. And if they only knew that over the hill into the next town, there's another individual standing at their microphone in the middle of the floor doing the same thing. And oh, how wonderful it would be if we were all networked, and that's what we're doing.